Being 7 p.m. on Wednesday, April 11th, 2018, call the regularly scheduled meeting of the Lisle Library District Board of Trustees to order. Roll call, please.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Here.
Jay Fisher.
Here.
Richard Flint.
Here.
Thomas Hummel.
Here.
Liz Sullivan.
Here.
Emily Swistat.
Here.
Monterey Wang.
Here.
A quorum being present. Item 2 on the agenda is opportunity for visitors to speak. As per our policy, visitors are allowed 5 minutes to address the board on any topic. We ask only that you please stand up and use the microphone to address the board so that the public viewing this can hear what you have to say. Any of the public present wish to address the board? Sir?
Okay. Hi, my name is Mark Spieglin. I've been a patron of the library for going on 30 years, and at the last meeting of this board, I was a first-time attendee. Due to recent political events, it sort of struck me that maybe I should pay attention on a lower level and not just the big stuff. But anyway, I was here last week, and 2 items of note. One is this gentleman's pizza analysis, if I will call it that. I haven't vetted his numbers, but it does seem intuitively correct that you would have to sell a lot of pizza to make a noticeable impact on the library budget. The other thing, there was some warmed up discussion, shall we say, about a reserve fund. Now, if I may ask a point of order, my understanding of the reserve fund is that any institution is subject to emergencies. Maybe the roof leaks, who knows what. But you may need some money that you hadn't anticipated. And so you can either have it on hand or you can borrow it. And there are costs associated with either. Am I more or less correct on this? Does anyone, is anyone able to affirm that?
A public comment is a chance for you to address us,
Okay,
not to have a dialogue.
okay. Well, I'm assuming I'm correct on this, and then you may take that for what it's worth. So Ms. Sullivan's association with simply having a reserve fund being an undue drain on tax money seems like an inappropriate argument to me. It's like the guy in the transmission commercial, you can pay me now or you can pay me later. A reserve fund seems to be a necessity. Exactly how it is implemented, exactly how much you should have, that's a point of debate. One final thing is, I noticed a brouhaha on Facebook today, and I noticed the censure resolution on the agenda concerning apparently, and you know, I haven't read into this too deeply, Ms. Sullivan's plans to go ahead with some sort of pizza fundraiser, which is not an official function of the library, shall we say, and the use of the library logo. Now, my uninformed gut feeling about this is, you know, go ahead and use the logo somewhere in your publicity if you wish, as long as you make it clear that it's not an official library event. Now, I don't know what's in the censure motion. I don't know if there's other history associated with it, but I just wanted to weigh in on that. So I'm done. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, sir. Any other members of the public wish to address the board?
As I noted the brouhaha with respect to this censure motion, I just have a couple comments to make about it. I understand that I'm kind of a newbie. I don't know all the ins and outs of the structure on the board and finances, but I hope to gather more information as time goes on. Anyway, with respect to the motion, first point that was made was the plan to publicize the solicitor participation in a private fundraising event. I would ask the board at some point to address the fact, was it previously discussed with board members and defined? That would be pertinent to the discussion, I would think. The second point, the defamation thing, that's valid. I concur with that. Well, the broadcast emails, I'm not exactly sure why that's a concern. There might be some specific things in there involved, but generally speaking, I don't understand why that's a major concern. The disclosing of private information, I didn't observe that, so. I'm making these comments so that you have input from the group. The last point, interferes with official operations of independent organizations. It's my understanding that perhaps some interference, not interference, that would be a poor choice of words, but something should be done to get greater support from some of these organizations that are in support of the library. Anyway, that's just my input on what's being offered for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other members of the public wish to address the board? Sir?
I'm Ray Soika, 5234 City Court. I saw this, I wasn't going to say anything. I guess, I don't know how this got drafted, I don't know all the dynamics or anything like that. I believe though, just to be fair, I mean, I looked at your website, you have no board code of conduct, like the school board has that, okay? So that helps guide, so there's nothing there. Part of me says, okay, if you're gonna go and censure somebody here, then you need to go point by point and share the data, share the facts, and share the references in that form. If you're not gonna do that, don't share, because let's make sure there's nothing lost in translation. I'm not saying a person should be censured, I'm not saying a person should not be censured, but put all the facts on the table. Facts are everything, okay? And as somebody said, facts have no feelings. Put the facts on the table. I think that's very important. Part of me also looks at it, I go, do you really have time for all this? I mean, what is this all about, you know? I don't know all the politics and so forth of this board. I understand a couple new people came on, but if part of it is people are upset with changing the status quo, get over it. Illinois is a high-tax state, and people are starting to take action on their taxes, on the performance of their taxing bodies and so forth. So if this is the whole thing about, people don't like the status quo changing, you know what, get used to it. It's gonna happen, it's gonna happen all over the place. But if there are substantial things, substantial facts that this person did wrong that requires censure, then put it all on the table, make sure everybody understands it so it doesn't happen again. Because you're a taxing body, we trust you to run this place efficiently and provide a great service to the community. Let's focus on that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other members of the public wish to address the board?
Hello, my name is Eileen Soliday. I live at 1035 John Bull Avenue, Lisle, Illinois, and I am a 40-plus year member of the library. I used to work here. I am retired. I have been watching, because you put this all on video now, our board meetings are on video, and I've been watching it because I used to sit here and watch it. And so it's interesting to me. And I was thinking, I'm watching this and I'm thinking, there's an awful lot of talk about emails between board members that was going on during the board meeting minutes. And I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, okay, that's not supposed to happen. There's only supposed to be, people aren't supposed to talk. Trustees are not supposed to talk to each other 2 or 3, maybe 2, but not 3 or 4 at a time. So when you do blast emails to all board members, it just sounded wrong to me. So that prompted my FOIA request to the library, and I asked for some emails to be forwarded to me. And I could see that there was a lot of that going on. And it shouldn't have been happening. I noticed that there's always a, do not respond to this email on the top. And that doesn't really, make it right. It's not right. You don't do that. You are to talk as a board in this meeting, not between yourself. And I also found out some other things in that board meeting minutes and in those emails, and really some shocking things about how people were talking about the health of volunteers or staff members of the library. This is unacceptable. It is unacceptable. I still have some FOIAs to come. So I may be back next month. But for right now, let me tell you that there has been some unacceptable practices going on between the board members at the Lisle Library District, and I'm sorry to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board?
President Fisher, thank you for the opportunity to address the board today. I mentioned last week that one of your fellow trustees had mischaracterized on Facebook how much money Grace Lake Library had appropriated in its 2017-2018 budget and appropriation and ordinance. That's also known as the BNA, as you know, but others may not. Why should we care about Grace Lake? This trustee is using this incorrect figure to argue that the Lisle Library's budget should match that figure and thereby reduce its own budget by 45%. And this mischaracterization was a significant error. This trustee claimed that Grace Lake had appropriated only $3 million for 2017-2018, when in fact it had appropriated nearly $4.5 million. Allow me to quote from the Grace Lake ordinance itself. Quote, the sum of $4,440,775, or as much thereof as may be authorized by law, is hereby appropriated for the purpose of the Grace Lake Area Public Library District. After the last meeting, the same trustee made a new Facebook post described as a quote, clarification, which claimed the following, quote, the Grace Lake Library BNA for the current fiscal year was approx. $3.7 million. At this point, this new claim is beyond a simple error or honest mistake and approaching a deliberate attempt to mislead the public. But questionable numbers are nothing new for this particular trustee. I remember prior to the election her frantic and false claims that this library had somehow created a $12 million slush fund it was hiding from the public. Allow me to quote from her own posts on patch.com. Quote, every year, the library board increases its slush fund. It is currently almost $12 million. She later described this as $11.8 million of taxpayer money that LLD is hoarding in reserve accounts, and claimed that, if elected, she would, quote, investigate how to rebate at least some of the $11.8 million hoarded taxpayer funds. But back in December, the library's auditors came in person to present their audit to this board and to the public. I would have thought that would have been a perfect time to ask about this board, but not a peep. Perhaps she knew that there had never been any $12 million slush fund. In any case, this story had served its purpose and could be discarded. Literally discarded, in fact. All her posts on Patch, made both before and after the election documenting her claims and her rhetoric, have since been deleted. Some of her other questionable posts have been deleted since, too. You may remember the Facebook post she made last month claiming, falsely, that Japan engages in rampant, blatant discrimination against Muslims, and crediting this discrimination for preserving Japanese culture and preventing honor killings and bombings. That post, too, has since been deleted, along with her bizarre defense of this post as an exercise in democracy and free speech, as well as an example of her desire to, as she put it, quote, make people aware of different cultures. And anyway, she didn't support how Japan treated minorities anyway. That's how she concluded that. But by deleting her post, she also deleted criticisms from her constituents, one of whom called it, quote, incredibly xenophobic and anti-Muslim. Perhaps the Lisle watchdogs will investigate this possible violation of these commenters' First Amendment rights. I know you and the board have important decisions to make regarding this trustee lady during this meeting. But first, let me tell you, first, that I'm impressed by the political courage needed to take these steps. It is the right thing to do, and probably overdue. I also want to point out the hypocrisy of the so-called Lisle watchdogs, too. Their principals are remarkably flexible when it involves one of their favorites. They are usually all over Open Meetings Act violations, but for this trustee, they're giving these violations, represented by these bulk emails, a pass. And furthermore, are providing a useful distraction by characterizing this action as being solely about her use of the library logo. In any case, once the board's decision is made, regardless of what that decision is, I hope she'll use this as an opportunity to reconsider how she plans to fulfill her oath to faithfully discharge her duties as one of the trustees of this library. As the board learned during its November training, quote, the main responsibility of a library trustee is to ensure library services are provided to the public. Facebook comments like, quote, let's get the library under control and then move on to the bigger fish, end quote, makes me think her dedication to the library is rather casual and fleeting, and unworthy of the trust the voters have put in her to help wisely guide the policies of this library for the next 3 years. I hope I'm wrong. And most of all, I hope this situation doesn't prove to be a lingering distraction as the board continues with these essential budgeting and strategic planning processes. They are too important. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the public wish to address the board? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 3 on our agenda, where we have a special presentation this evening from a representative from the pension fund, the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund.
Hi, I'd like to introduce Tisha Anderson, who is our IMRF rep. She'll be providing the board with a brief summary of our funding. Thank you, Tisha.
Thank you for having me here this evening, and I bring good news to you this evening as well. For those of you who aren't aware, IMRF is an Illinois public pension program which is funded directly by the almost 3,000 employers that participate in IMRF. We've got about 174,000 members who participate in IMRF, and we pay benefits to about 120,000 retirees each and every month. We are a well-funded retirement system. We've been in operations now for over 77 years, and the library district has been a part of IMRF since 1969. We started this year at about 97% funded, which is remarkable for a pension program, and it's unbelievably remarkable for an Illinois public pension program. So we want to assure the board and the taxpayers that the IMRF benefits are not the unfunded pension obligations that we hear about in the newspaper, which is typically going to be focusing on the state-funded retirement systems, such as the teachers, the state employees, the universities, even the General Assembly and the judges. So we're kind of a shining star. The good news for the library district is due to investment returns and also through additional reserve payments that the library district has been making to IMRF, you ended, or actually began calendar year 2018 at approximately 98.64% funded on an actuarial basis. So hats off to you. That high level of funding is resulting in an employer contribution rate, which we are projecting for 2019 at 6.7%. That's the preliminary rate notice for the Lisle Library District. The average employer contribution rate for 2019 is 9.06%. So the fact that your rate is lower than the average employer shows that you are a much better funded employer. Consequently, you have a lower employer contribution rate. Prior to this meeting, Ginger and I were talking about employers that I have in a 9-county area. I've got employers that have rates of over 50% of payroll. I have employers, yeah, that's kind of shocking. I've also got employers that have rates of less than 1% of payroll. So what's important to remember about IMRF is that each employer is funding the retirement costs of its own employees. All of the retirement contributions that Lisle Library District pays into IMRF are used to fund the benefits of the employees who retire with service from the library district. I don't know if, Ginger, is there anything else that you would like for me to say, or do you want me to turn it over to the board if you have questions for me?
Thank you. Does anyone have questions for IMRF representative? Sounds like everything is great.
Well, thank you for having me here this evening.
Appreciate the
you.
update and the information.
Thanks, Tisha.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tisha. So we are going to do things a little differently this evening, and item 4 on the agenda is an executive session. So we will move into executive session, have a short executive session, and then reopen. So does someone wish to make a motion?
I move that we apply 5 ILCS 120/2C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body, or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity.
And is there a second?
I second.
Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So we will be going into executive session where everyone except the board members and the director will need to leave the room. I don't expect it to last more than 5-10 minutes. At this point, then we will open the doors and allow the public to re-enter and move along with our agenda. So thank you for your patience.
At 7:22 p.m.
7:22. All right, it is 7:35 p.m. and we are back in open session. Next item is the consent agenda. Does anyone? No. Does anyone have any items they wish?
Yes, I'd like to propose a change to the minutes,
Okay.
and that is on page 3 of the minutes from the last board meeting. The very top line, very end of the line, says trustee Bartelli seconded trustee Wang's suggestion. I would respectfully request a change of verb. We usually use the word move and second to refer to actual motions. That part of the discussion wasn't a motion.
Excuse me.
I'd like to propose that we change it to approved trustee Wang's suggestion.
Oh, here, the top, right, that we're talking about, right here.
Okay, and what's the
You want to
suggestion?
change the word seconded to approved
Approve,
Okay,
yeah.
Or agreed with.
or agreed.
well, which one would you like?
Agreed.
Agreed.
So we're changing seconded to agreed with in the minutes. Any other changes? Seeing none, does someone wish to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Is there a second?
I second.
A motion by trustee Flynn, seconded by trustee Wang to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion on the? Seeing none, roll call please.
Marcia Bartelli.
Aye.
Richard Flint.
Aye.
Thomas Hummel.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Emily Swistak.
Aye.
Mallory Wang.
Aye.
The consent agenda is approved. Item 6 on the agenda is the director's report. Director Weinstein.
Okay, happy National Library Week, everyone. We are in it, April 8th through 14th, and the theme this year is Libraries Lead. It is a nationwide observance encouraging public participation in the celebration of libraries, and we are celebrating in a number of ways. We did have Curious George here in this room this morning, and we had between 80 and 90 young folk having fun with our rambunctious chimp. And at all the public service desks this week, patrons will have a chance to win one of 4 library umbrellas by trying to guess the book in a bottle. All the public service desks, there are 3 downstairs, 1 upstairs. You have to try to guess. We have a book shredded in each of the bottles, and you guess what the title is of the book. So get your guess in before the end of the week if you'd like to win an umbrella. And another way the residents can show their love for the library this month is to display the very attractive We Heart the LLD yard sign. I know a couple of trustees here have them in their yard, proudly displayed. So the signs are available at the public service desks and at any program in the meeting room, including here tonight. We ask that patrons either apply for a library card, attend a program, or give the library your contact information so you could be updated via text alerts or e-blasts, or you can follow us on social media. In March and April, we've had a number of productive meetings and more to come. This month, I provided a few trustees tours of the building, and I've had vendor briefings in person and via telephone, and had multiple meetings with my department directors and other various staff in preparation for our budget discussions. We also had a very good strategic planning committee meeting where members discussed example plans of other agencies. We talked about some focus areas for a new strategic plan, and some possible facility and campus improvements. And the next meeting is scheduled for May 2nd. We also had a committee of the whole budget meeting on April 4th where we discussed costs associated with building, operations, insurance, contractual services, equipment, materials, programs, restricted use, and contingency. And board members provided their input, and those ideas will be brought to the second scheduled meeting on April 18th next week, and we'll discuss the second half of the budget then. Categories for that meeting include personnel, staff, trustee development, building and maintenance fund, and special reserves and revenue. And that's it.
Are there any questions for the director? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along to item 7, assistant director's report. Beth.
Hi. The digital outreach team this past month met to discuss the promotion that they were working on to increase subscribers to our LLD YouTube channel. The DOT team reports that we have 39 subscribers, so we about doubled it in 1 month, so they're going to keep working at it. Josh Hepler, our communications coordinator, worked with the youth services staff to film and edit storytime songs that are used in programming. And these short videos are going to be available on our YouTube channel. I think one is up there today. I think there's another one coming or two later in the week. The library event planning team met in March to review the overwhelming success of the Harry Potter Day at the library on March 10th, and the staff discussed the use of the meeting room and facility resources for that very busy day. And they're going to work to kind of apply what they learned to their planning for Summer Read Kickoff, which is Saturday, June 2nd. And also we have a Summer Read Wrap Day, which is on Saturday, July 28th. The elevator here was out of order for 2 days this past weekend. It is older equipment, and our elevator maintenance company needed to find replacement switches. The elevator was back in operation yesterday about noontime. New carpeting was laid Sunday before the library opened in the lobby outside right here at the meeting room. This area gets the most wear and was no longer coming clean. Luckily, we were able to find the same pattern that is used elsewhere in the library, so I think it really looks nice out there now and brighter. I think that's it.
Any questions for the assistant director?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I'm getting a lot of emails where people are asking me for the link to the community engagement video. And I don't know if you were talking about videos, I'm not sure. But is it possible to put that video at the same place that we have the other trustee meeting? Since it was a trustee meeting and that's where they're looking for it, but it's in another area.
That wasn't filmed with this equipment, so I'd have to check with the people who do this work to get it up to YouTube. So
I think we can do that.
You think so?
Yeah, it's on
Okay.
YouTube today, so all you have to do is move it.
I think we can do that.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments for the assistant director? All right, thank you. Item 8 is committee reports.
I'm sorry, can I
Up.
ask?
You want to jump up?
Yeah, just real quick. For the, on page 57, the materials processes report, I think it's really good. Those are very nice stats. I'm wondering it would be nice to have a quarter-to-quarter comparison. So instead of just looking at these isolation, because I don't know what's good or bad, or are we improving, or the performance declining. This page, the 57, page
That was
57.
part of the department quarterly reports, so we appreciate those reports being in the
Yes,
packet
those
as
are really
well.
good. I really like it, yeah. It's a lot more detailed, a lot more granularity, so that's good. Thank you.
Then we're back to you, Laundry.
Well, we didn't have any meeting this last month, and no meeting planned so far.
All right, does anyone have any questions on the financials for the treasurer?
find the treasurer's report. Do you know what page it's on?
7.
Okay, 45 was the director's. Well, I don't know where page 7 is, but what I was wondering, and I kind of brought this up last time, if we could see the percentage that both the reserve fund and the other funds are of the total, that would be great.
I think last time we talked about the formatting. You wanted a different format to show the data. Is that what you were talking
No,
about?
I wanted to have maybe another column where it would say what percentage is held in our reserve fund of the total funds, and then what percentage is held in the other funds. So instead of, total funds being the 100%, could we also add, reserve plus those total funds equal 100%?
Yeah, we can do that. The only thing is that we haven't made any movement in terms of the balance of reserve fund, so the percentage probably won't really change much month to month until we have the
Totally
actions.
agree, but I'm thinking of the person who goes on there and doesn't read the report every month, looks at it and says, now wait a minute, why isn't that a percentage of the whole?
Yeah, I mean, we can add another column to show the percentage, special reserve as a percentage of the total. The only thing, of course, is even though the absolute dollars for the special reserve probably won't change until the board take actions, but the percentage will fluctuate because the total will change month to month. So in a way, it kind of give a little, I would say, a little false percentage changes if actually we haven't taken any actions on increasing or decreasing the funds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
we can.
Doesn't the reserve, don't we put 25 grand in there every month?
I think that we kind of talked about we're gonna stop that until did we say?
No, we do. And
On the 20th.
if I remember correctly, this conversation about adding a column, I think you're mentioned, I think it's in the minutes, that you said in a future finance committee meeting, we would
Right,
talk
we're
about a
gonna
new format.
redo another format for this as part of the finance committee discussion.
Right.
But, I mean, if we want it, we can add it to next, I mean, it's just a simple percentage adding to the column. It should
That'd be
no
great.
problem. Yeah, so Ginger, maybe we can follow up on that one.
Any other questions for the treasurer? All right, personnel policy,
No business, no meeting planning, nothing to report.
physical plan.
Are we going to have one? We don't have plans for a meeting.
Okay. So, physical plant met yesterday afternoon to discuss this for some upcoming fiscal year 18-19 projects, as well as any outstanding for this current fiscal year, and the one that's on the horizon here for the remainder for this year is the ADA bathroom auto doors, which I believe we said we'll be doing starting somewhat shortly here. As far as fiscal year 18-19 projects, it would be some curb work, maybe some sidewalk work, server room repairs and reconfigurations, and some other, actually a lot of server room work, and perhaps add in a security camera on the west end of the building as well. And I guess the video said it has some the audio's not the best, or non-existent. We might try to add some substandard audio, so it might be tough for anybody that's gonna wanna watch the video.
It's
very faint
The
sound.
video worked, the audio didn't. We have an electrical issue in these plugs here, so we've now plugged behind us. Unfortunately, we couldn't capture all the audio or any of it, but we do have a video, so we can post the video, and the minutes, of course, will be forthcoming.
Any questions for physical planning? LLD strategic planning. Our next meeting is May 4th, correct? May 2nd, sorry, thank you, May 2nd. The minutes from the first meeting were in your packet. And as Tatiana mentioned, we had a second meeting where we went over some of the other plans that people submitted as good examples. And so we're moving forward in the process.
Right. Yes.
Did you have something you wish to add?
No, we talked about the focus areas and some possible campus improvements. And we were -2 members, so those ideas will advance to the next meeting and we can discuss it more broadly.
Any questions on strategic planning? All right, Committee of the Whole. As was mentioned, we had a meeting last week where we went over some of the budget, and a week from this evening, on April 18th, we will go over the rest of the budget. So look for information on that as well. Any questions on the budget process? All right. Then moving along to item 9, I don't believe we have any unfinished business. Which leads us to item 10, new business, which we have one. Item A, Resolution 1801.
May I suggest that the resolution be read, a mover be requested, and a second, then discussion, then a vote? And I'd like to read the resolution. Resolution 18-01. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Lisle Library District adheres to all relevant statutes and laws governing nonprofit funding and supports limitations and restrictions on participation of elected officials. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Lisle Library District strongly condemns the use of social media and other vehicles of communication to slander, ridicule, harass, or defame any LLD employee or fellow trustee. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Lisle Library District believes that all discussion of the public business should occur in full view of the public at properly noticed board and committee meetings. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Lisle Library District believes that official correspondence must not disclose confidential information about private citizens. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Lisle Library District believes that no LLD trustee should use his or her LLD board position to speak, organize, advocate, solicit, or exercise leadership on behalf of the LLD Board of Trustees without the express permission or authority of the LLD Board of Trustees. Therefore, be it resolved that the LLD Board of Trustees censures Trustee Liz Sullivan, who used her LLD position to plan, publicize, and solicit participation in private fundraising events using the official LLD logo without the approval of the LLD Board of Trustees. On April 4th, 2018, used Facebook to deliberately and specifically defame Director Tatiana Weinstein, sends broadcast emails between meetings to fellow trustees, staff, and others to discuss the LLD budget, policies, methods and procedures, statistics, and other public business, discloses names and private information, including but not limited to personal email addresses and health-related information about members of the public in her email correspondence with trustees, staff, and others, interferes with the official operations of other independent organizations, such as the Friends of the Lisle Library District. We call on Trustee Sullivan to act collectively with the whole of the Lisle Library District Board of Trustees and in compliance with this censure resolution. That is the resolution, and I will move to adopt this resolution.
There was a motion to adopt Resolution 1801. Is there a second?
I second.
There is a motion and a second. Discussion.
I'd like to say that the email issue has been on our table since almost day one. And it's been talked about many times respectfully, solicitously, and from the point of view, from the perspective of, well, this is easily misconstrued. But the day after this was published, in other words, on Saturday, another broadcast email came regarding Grays Lake. I only read the subject lines. I don't know what it said. And number two, I wish this resolution had contained a reference to the posts about Muslims
Point
There
of
have been
order, it's
two.
not on the agenda, or on the resolution.
I'm expressing my opinion about the resolution.
It's a point of order. This is not on the resolution.
If you could,
That issue is not on
yes,
the
if you could just
resolution.
contain your discussion to the resolution as it is worded and up for discussion.
That is improper, but
Okay.
I will accede.
Good. Any other discussion on the resolution?
Jay, I just wanted to ask a question. Did you notify the board that the lawyer okayed me sending emails to everybody? I didn't know if you notified them of that.
I can't remember.
Okay, I'll forward the email. Well, I won't forward it to everybody. But the lawyer said it's not an Open Meetings Act violation. So just want everybody to know that.
As we have said many times, respectfully, the issue is not whether a certain act is an open meeting violation. That is not our standard. The issue is whether the public's business should be processed in view of the public. Broadcast emails about our internal business, sometimes they inadvertently, I assume it's inadvertent, get sent to other libraries. Now everyone knows our business. There's no reason for that, whether it's an OMA violation or not.
Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, a roll call, please.
Please remind us what ayes and nays mean.
Ayes are to approve Resolution 1801. Nays are to disapprove.
Emily Swistak.
Aye.
Richard Flint.
Aye.
Thomas Hummel.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
No.
Long Ray Wang.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
No.
Jay Fisher.
Aye. Motion passes 5-2.
Mr. President, since this item has been dispensed with, I'd like to continue what I was saying about the item about Muslims. An official trustee page, which has the same force, as I understand it, as an official library social media, contained defamatory, inflammatory, factually incorrect, some have told me bigoted, references to people of color. 2 of them. They had nothing to do with library business. I think we ought to have taken a stand and put that in the censure resolution. I'm embarrassed to sit here when members of the public more than once have used the microphone to ask us to take a stand against this sort of language. We are not a diverse, we're not a community of artificial divisions. We're proud of our diversity. We're one Lisle. We need to stand up when members around the table use their privileged position to put this stuff on social media as official trustees. So I wish that had been in the resolution. That's all.
Any other business to come before the board?
I think we need a personal policy meeting, though, to get the logo under control, because I know I mentioned it at the last meeting in January, and I know I've been talking to the director going back to last year on that, because it was used, I thought, inappropriately in last year. So, and that, at least for that, for starters, we need to trust that going forward.
And I'd respond that to remind Vice President Hummel and to remind the rest of the board, the reason we haven't had a personnel policy committee meeting since January is that we knew we would get embroiled in these very time-consuming budget and strategic planning issues. And there's only so much you can do. So we will talk about it the next time we have a committee meeting. It's not as probably as simple as you might think. It was an issue, I think you referred to the election last year when it was used. So there is an issue there and it does need to be discussed. But we have to do things in public, in full view of the public. We're not going to do this by email. So as soon as we have time, after all this priority business is processed, then we'll get to it.
Or we just censured a trustee for the logo, and I would argue correctly so, but I think we need a logo policy, and it shouldn't be that difficult.
We don't always need a policy to tell us to do what's right.
Definitely think that's an issue that the policy committee needs to look at as soon as the policy committee can meet, but we are embroiled in budget and strategic planning, so that should be item 1, 2, item 3, right after we get down to that. Any other issues, items to come before the board? All right, is there anyone,
I move
motion
to
to adjourn?
adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn in a second. Any discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.